Germans had come up with creative ways of making life a little bit better that we had never seen before moving to Germany. Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany with our baby, sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. So at this point, most of you guys have seen it. The videos on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube Shorts where people show off logical things in their home, town, or country that may be a unique thing to just these places. I made a video last year with things that I have found in Germany that just simply makes a lot of sense. I also made a different video of things Germany does that doesn't make sense. But I thought that I would continue this theme and talk about a few more things that we've never seen in the US that we think maybe Americans should consider adopting because they just simply make a lot of sense. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today in our video. Zach, German life hack. We just exited the Christmas season, but as we went through it, I was reminded of something that Germans do that just simply makes a lot of sense, and that is that they celebrate not just one, but two Christmas days. Well, they don't actually really celebrate two Christmas days, but they do have the same Christmas day that we know in the US on December 25th, as well as what is known as second day of Christmas on December 26th. So, for example, December 25th will fall on a Monday this year, and most of both Germans and Americans will have that day off from work. However, December 26th will fall on a Tuesday, and that is no longer a holiday in the US, so most Americans will be back to work, or they will have to use their personal time off to take off from work if they want to, whereas Germans will still be on holiday. Now, I know that not every American or every German are Christians or necessarily celebrate Christmas, but according to a Gallup poll from 2019, 93% of Americans celebrated Christmas, and in Germany, a Statista poll showed that in 2022, 81% of those in Germany celebrated Christmas. So when 9 in 10 Americans and 8 in 10 Germans celebrate this holiday, and it typically being the most important holiday in both countries, unless you are from Cologne, which then the most important holiday is Carnival, it seems to just make sense to give people time off to celebrate and be with their family. However, before we go thinking that Germany has this issue figured out and are doing great things for their workers, I will point out that one thing that could use improvement in Germany, and that is a little thing Americans like to call observed holidays. And in fact, Americans actually got a little taste of what Christmas is like in Germany this past year because Americans, in a sense, did get first Christmas and second Christmas because of observed holidays. If we look at an American calendar for Christmas in 2022, we see Christmas fell on a Sunday, but Monday was Christmas Day observed, meaning everybody got a bank holiday on the Monday after Christmas. But why was this? Well, when holidays fall on weekends in the US, we don't just let that holiday from work go to waste like Germans do. We actually will get the Friday before or Monday following the weekend to get that day of rest in such cases. Otherwise, in Germany, you end up with a situation where, like in 2021, where first day of Christmas fell on a Saturday and second day of Christmas fell on a Sunday, but everybody was at work on the Friday before and back to work on Monday, completely wasting the amazing double holiday day celebration that Germany has created. So there, something both countries can learn from each other.
You hate meal planning? I hate meal planning. You hate wasting groceries? I hate wasting groceries. Speaking of things that just simply make a lot of sense, I need to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. In August of 2021, we've gotten in a rut of eating the same things over and over. Some friends turned us on to HelloFresh, and today I want to be that friend to you because we've loved it since then. Seriously, we've saved this many recipes because of how delicious their meals are. HelloFresh is a weekly meal delivery service that sends you the freshest ingredients and recipes recipes to your doorstep. Every week, we get to choose from 30 plus different recipes so that we don't have to meal plan. And rather than being wasteful and buying, for example, a container of sour cream that we only need about a tablespoon of for a new recipe, HelloFresh sends you the exact measured amount of ingredients that you need. HelloFresh is also incredibly flexible because you can set your preferences to vegetarian meals, meat and vegetables, or other preferences, and even how many meals you want in a week so that you don't get bogged down cooking every night. The only favor our friends did for us was by simply telling us about HelloFresh, but for you guys, I'm sharing our personal link and code PASSPORT2 to get you up to 90 euros off of your first 4 boxes in Germany and free shipping on your first box.
While we are on the winter subject, we just recently had a rather large snow, and I found a great example of something that simply makes sense in Germany, and that is Räum und Streupflicht. So I can speak more so towards where we are from, specifically in Oklahoma, where there isn't any requirements to maintain the sidewalks of our neighborhood in terms of shoveling them after snow or making sure they aren't slick. If it snowed, our parents would sometimes require us to get out and shovel our driveways so that we were able to get out and drive if needed, but that was pretty much it. If you wanted to go on a walk, you would be treading through the snow that was on the sidewalk, unless some kind neighbor for some reason chose to shovel that small section in front of their house. However, in Germany, Räum und Streupflicht basically is a mandate of how everyone is required to clear and take care of public sidewalks in front of their residences. If there is one thing that we have learned about Germans since moving to Germany, it is that Germans love themselves rules and technicalities. I found a recent article from our state's newspaper that covered a few of these technicalities by saying things like sidewalks must be kept slip-free between 7 in the morning and 10 p.m. So sleeping in on snowy mornings is technically not an option, as one must get out and start clearing those sidewalks. And also, the cleared area must be wide enough for 2 people to pass without having to avoid each other. In terms of the Streupflicht part, you also must make sure it isn't slick, and this may require you spreading salt on the sidewalk. But wait, again, we love technicalities as well as the environment, so you must check with your local municipality for what you're allowed to spread on these sidewalks, because some salts may actually be banned because they harm the environment. But if one doesn't maintain the sidewalk in front of the residence, and if someone happens to be walking in front of your home, slips, falls, and gets injured, it is the person in the home that gets in legal trouble because they didn't care for the protection of those passing their home on that section of the sidewalk. So in terms of this just making sense, I think it simply makes a lot of sense to look out for those living around you and making sure they can safely travel in front of your home if possible. But also, these rules do seem to reflect the difference between life in the US and Germany. In Germany, even in our small village, people rely on the sidewalks to get around as they walk to lots of things in our community, often more than they rely on driving. However, of course, in the US, we all know how much Americans depend on their vehicles, and in the case of where we grew up, nobody can really walk anywhere like stores, work, or school because of the distance to those things. The very first few days that we were in Germany, we had a moment where we had our first awkward interactions with not understanding German social norms when we went to the Rathaus to register as new residents of our town. An employee called us into the office, which was a small office with about 3 people working, and there was 2 other people also registering with the city. As we walked in, we greeted the employee that called us in, but every person in the room turned and said hello to us and went back to work. We were kind of taken aback, but returned the greeting sheepishly, as we thought maybe they did this because we accidentally disturbed them. But a little later, as we were going through the Anmeldung process, the other people that were there registering got up to leave, and as they left, they said goodbye to everyone in the room, and every person responded, including the person that we were in the middle of working with. We were again taken aback and confused, but we said goodbye like everyone else and carried on. And this has been a regular occurrence in other situations like doctor's office waiting rooms or even the locker room at our gym. When someone walks in, everybody says hello, then goes back to their own business. Then when someone leaves, everybody says tschüss, and then everybody again goes back to minding their own business. Simply put, in Germany, you always acknowledge someone entering or exiting a shared space, regardless if you plan on actually interacting with them or not. Now, I would actually like for our viewers to weigh in on this because we are very intrigued with the differences in how we interact with strangers between the US and Germany. For example, in the US, we love a good small talk conversation with strangers, but this is something that Germans love to comment on our videos that they just can't stand. Yet, when you walk into a doctor's waiting room with a room full of strangers in Germany, you better expect to hear that chorus of hallos followed by painful awkward silence as nobody talks anymore until someone leaves and they all make sure to tell them goodbye. So why do we think it is that in the US, where small talk is such a big part of our culture, we don't have the same greeting culture in shared spaces indoors, but in Germany they do this but don't like any kind of small talk in between? What simply makes a lot of sense about this to me though is the fact that everybody at least acknowledges each other, that they are around them, and I find that very nice. Now, to be honest, this next one I would also like for you to weigh in on whether or not you think this is a thing that simply makes sense in Germany or whether it actually is unnecessary. In a video last year, I talked about the differences in raising children between Germans and Americans, with one difference being what we feel like we have seen on menus in restaurants for children. But one thing I didn't mention in that video is how many German restaurants will offer what is called a Räuberteller, which literally translates to a robber's plate, and this description explains it's so that kids can rob their food from their mom and dad's plates. So at first glance, I was like, wow, that's a great idea. This is something that totally makes sense, that you aren't paying for a separate meal for a small child who won't eat much anyways. They'll just bring them a plate so that we can share some of the parents' plates and they'll be satisfied. It also seems like a thing that simply makes a lot of sense because rather than small children just ordering chicken nuggets and french fries, they're going to eat the same meal as their parents, which is a great palate training for a child. That is, of course, unless they are being raised by parents that also just eat chicken nuggets and french fries, I guess. So not every German restaurant will have this on their menu, although it is fairly common, and I've personally never seen anything like this or heard of this in the US being called something specifically, but I don't think this idea doesn't exist in the US. Just rather than giving it a name, we would just ask the waiter to bring an extra plate so food can be shared, and I would say that nearly 100% of the time the restaurants will do this for free, just like a Räuberteller in Germany. So to me, I think this seems like something that the aspect that I guess just makes sense would maybe just be the fact that the Germans, who of course have a single word for everything, came up with a specific term for this, unlike in the US where there is no word for it, even though we still can kind of do this. But what do you think? Is a phrase like a robber's plate something the US should adopt, or is it just giving something a name and place on a menu unnecessarily because it's just understood that you can do this? To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is Baden-Württemberg or Bavaria? Which Bundesland is more beautiful? Thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you in our next video. What am I stuck on? Now, I would like for our viewers to weigh in on this because I am very intrigued with the differences in how the... Now, I would like for our viewers to